So with the release of Transformers The Last Night, we are now 5 movies into the Michael Bay Transformers series, but in this video, we are not just going to rank his 5 movies, we're also going to rank the 1986 The Transformers The Movie. So I grew up in the 80s, that's the Transformers movie of my childhood, so we're gonna review them and rank them all together at the same time. Before we dive into this and start looking at Rotten Tomatoes and my thoughts on these movies, go ahead and put your ranking down in the comment section down below. Tell me your thoughts, let's get some lively discussion going on. I really do read all of those. I don't always necessarily comment on all of them, but I try to. With all that said, let's dive into the Rotten Tomatoes scores on these and let's see what the critics had to say about them. From worst to the best, at the bottom, coming in at number 6 is Transformers The Last Night. The one that just came out has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes as of the filming of this video. Coming in at number 5 is Transformers Age of Extinction at 18%. Stepping one step up above that, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen has 19%. Coming in at number 3 is Transformers Dark of the Moon with 35%. Coming in at number 2 is Transformers The Movie, or The Transformers The Movie from 1986 with 55%. And coming in at number 1 is the first Michael Bay Transformers movies with 57%. And if you think about that, that means none of these have a fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. All of them have actually gotten mostly negative reviews from the critics, or those top 2, or at least have over 50%, but still not considered fresh, according to Rotten Tomatoes. And if you look at some of the discussion about these movies, that's kind of where a lot of people kind of follow them. They do have their fans, even the wacky, some of the current ones still have people that love them. Even the one that came out a few days ago, I wasn't crazy about it, I had some interesting thoughts on it, but some people were telling me they actually loved it. So that makes some of this so interesting, is that we have such different opinions where some people, Michael Bay's the worst, we need to run him out of Hollywood, we burn his house to the ground, he's the killing Hollywood in blockbusters. Some people feel that way about him, and other people love the movies that he makes and loves these Transformers movies in particular. So a couple things before we start diving into my actual ranking of the movies. First, if it looks like I'm sweating a lot and turning bright red, it's because I live in Texas and my air conditioner isn't working. And so even though it's almost 11 o'clock at night right now, it is really, really hot in my house, so I might sweat a little bit during this video. Second, if this is your first time tuning into one of my ranking videos, just so you know, I drop a new ranking video every Saturday. I try and tie it to whatever big franchises put out a movie that weekend. So the DCEU, the MCU, the best Spider-Man movies, all that stuff, I rank them, put them out. Check out the playlist. I'll put a little card up there so you can check those out. But don't click away just yet. Watch this video. With all that said, let's dive in and start talking about the best and the worst Transformers movies. Starting at the bottom at number 6, I have The Transformers The Movie. Now, so we're clear, when I say this one's the worst one, it's the least watchable for me. So I put it in for this video. I rewatched it about a week and a half ago, and it was really rough for me. I'm not a big Transformers guy. I was more of a G.I. Joe guy. Actually, I still have some of my G.I. Joes. This is a character from G.I. Joe the movie. Watched that one a bunch growing up. Even as a kid, I wasn't crazy about this movie, and trying to watch it now, I know some of you guys are fanboys, some of you guys grew up with it and you love it and you have the nostalgia, some of you just love Transformers so you love this movie. For me, it was just so much Transformers jargon and mumbo jumbo, kind of, from my perspective, cheap looking animation and just visual noise on the screen. They were trying to kill off the toy line so that they could bring in new toys. And I mean, I wasn't tracking with it really at all what the plot was. So much jargon and nonsense. And then 2/3 of the way through the movie, a song starts playing, and I think to myself, is this a Weird Al song? There's no way they're playing a Weird Al song in the middle of a Transformers movie. And then the robots start dancing, dare to be stupid, dare to be stupid. I was like, they are. They're just doing a full dance number to Weird Al's Dare to Be Stupid in the middle of this movie. And then you play through it, and it ends just as abruptly as all of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Just like one of those things, the trademarks of Transformers movies. They just suddenly end. So for me, this one is the least watchable. And for me, when it comes to this series, it's all about rewatchability because I don't naturally gravitate towards them. I don't think any of these are amazing movies. So how rewatchable is it? How likely when it comes to these movies am I to put in which one, the one I'm least likely to ever rewatch is The Transformers, the movie, the animated one. I did not care for it at all. It was it was pretty difficult for me to sit through that whole movie. It really was just noise visually and auditory noise to me. And the soundtrack to it, beyond the Weird Al song, it's done by the same guy that did Rocky IV, and you can hear that, and it's so misplaced. It's so weird how much music is playing throughout the whole thing. It's so loud and obnoxious. Once again, a trademark of this franchise. Sorry for the interruption. I wanted to talk about the single biggest thing you can do to support my channel, and that's to become one of my official patrons by supporting me financially directly on my Patreon page. If you do that, you get kind of special influence into my page in that I ask my patrons every month, what movie would they like me to review? What subject do they want me to address in a video? And essentially they get a personalized video made directly for them each month. I also give them special influence into my future projects I'm working on, give them shout outs, and like in this video right here, I put a list of their names up on the screen because I want to support their channels as well. So if you'd be willing to support my channel because you're a big fan of what we're doing and you want me to continue doing this, please consider supporting me on Patreon. With all that said, let's continue. For me, coming in at number 5 is Transformers: Age of Extinction. So they changed things up with this movie, brought Mark Wahlberg in, threw out almost all of the human characters from the other ones, maybe all of them. I don't know, it's been a couple months since I watched it. And it was kind of a reboot, but in the same continuity. And holy cow, this is one of the, maybe the most bloated blockbuster of all time. In that the plot to it on a basic level is actually kind of interesting. If you're going to do a Transformers movie, the idea that people are picking up the pieces of Transformers to make their own Transformers to try and control them, and that's interesting. That's a good plot to go into the direction when you're at the 4th movie in a franchise. That's workable. The way it's executed and the elements and the plots and all these other things going on, it's so stretched out, and the plot lines, storylines, execution of individual scenes, everything. There's so much stuff poured into it. It's just not very interesting. And to be clear, I'm kind of biased to like this movie because all that stuff in the first act with Mark Wahlberg's house was shot 15 minutes down the road. Literally that way. Drive 15 minutes and you're in Taylor, Texas, where they shot all that stuff. The phone number on it, 512. My phone number is a 512 number. I know where a bunch of those spots are that they shot that stuff. So I'm biased to liking it because they shot it around here. I know someone a little bit that worked on the film. But it's so unbelievably, mind-numbingly stupid and stretched out and over the top. And when I watched it for the first time just 2-3 months ago, I actually tried to take notes, like tracking with time codes. It's like, we're this amount of time into it and we're still focused on all this weird stuff. And so overall, I mean, it was just homework, hard, draining. Individual moments, individual scenes, all very watchable in and of themselves. Not necessarily good, stupid Michael Bay humor, but watchable in and of itself. I like Mark Wahlberg. As a whole, so long, so over-bloated with stuff. So it comes in at number 5 for me. Coming in at number 4 on my list is Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. I rewatched this one about a week ago, and so this one probably has some of the worst. It was kind of, a lot of people put this one on the bottom of their list because the script really has some holes in it, plot problems, weird ideas about a Transformer that looks like a woman, and all sorts of gigantic problems with it. And if you know the history of this movie, there was a writer's strike, I believe, in the process of where they were trying to write the script. And so they really did kind of go into production without a completed script. That's just history. That's not my speculation. That's just true. They had an unfinished rush script, and that's what the movie feels like. A movie with some big aspirations, big ideas that they didn't get to finish. And so then you get lots of the spectacle, you get lots of the stupid Michael Bay humor that you don't want in these movies. And I think what really kind of killed this movie is the first 3 of these movies all seem to follow the same template and format. So they went, the first movie worked, people liked the first movie, so let's try and do that same thing with the second and third ones. And the template involves you kind of seeing where it starts off, and then you get something about Transformers, and then big government stuff's going on, and then we follow Sam in his life, and we follow him and what's going on. And so in this movie, I was timing it as I have done, watching with all of them, and it's like 45 minutes into the movie, and we're still going to class with Sam. We're still hanging out with his roommate, and this plot line hasn't gotten going because there's so much stuff, and we got to spend time with him, and it's just kind of like following the template of the first one. And I would guess the time codes probably match up pretty closely of at what point in time certain inciting incidents happen, when the first action sequence with Sam happens. I bet that's the way that this would work out, and they just tried to copy what worked on the first one, and it doesn't work in the sequels, because in the sequels you don't have to do all that setup. We can just get right to it. But they don't. They drag it all out. And so for me, it just kind of just becomes homework once again to watch through these movies. And it didn't quite connect as well. And yeah, anyway. So coming in number 3 is Transformers Dark of the Moon. Very similar thoughts. I debated which one to kind of put on top here. Overall, the third one has a more structured plot. You could figure out a little bit better what was going on. Still a little bit convoluted, too many plot lines, moved in too many directions. And the same problem as the second one of, once again in this movie, they're trying to give you this big catch up on what's going on in Sam's life and his dating life and what's going on with his parents. And so we're seeing him do these job interviews, and he's meeting up with John Malkovich, and then McDreamy's hanging around, and there's introducing all these characters and dating relationships till 45, 50 minutes into the movie, and we're still in his office joking around for so long. And once it gets going, once again, as with all these, the special effects are quite impressive. Lots of really cool stuff that you get to see in these movies. And this one might have my favorite third act when it comes to this spectacle. I just thought, the size of it is, there's some cool, really cool stuff in here. So that's probably what put it over Revenge for me. They're both bloated, confusing, nonsense stuff kind of going on. So that's, kind of went back and forth. 2 and 3 are really, they're kind of neck to me. I prefer Megan Fox over whoever the girl is in the third one. It's not like Megan Fox is awesome or anything. She just has a little bit more of a spunk to her, not acting-wise, but on-screen presence that caught my attention a little bit more. And just because she was the continuation of the person from the first movie, I just had more of an ongoing connection and was invested more in the relationship. Whereas here, it's just like, it starts off and the girl's walking upstairs and we see her thighs and up to her butt. And then she walks up and we see the back of her head, and then we go down back to her butt, all before we see her face. The way Michael Bay introduced the girl in the third movie is butt, and she's wearing Daisy Dukes high enough that you see the butt cheek. That's like, the most gratuitous Michael Bay making his point pretty clear. Yeah, I like to ogle women, and I only cast Megan Fox and whoever this girl is and whoever the girl is in the other ones. I only cast them because I think they're pretty, and I like to stare at their boobs and their butts. This movie breaks it pretty clear. That is his priority, and anyway. I'm rambling a little bit. Like I said, 2 and 3 are kind of side by side to me. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to talk real quick about something called MoviePass. MoviePass is the way I pay for all of the movies I go and see the theaters. Here's how it works. I pay $45 each month, and they send me a credit card. Whenever I want to go see a movie, I open up their app when I get to the theater, select the movie, they put the money on the credit card, and I can go and see the movie. There's a couple catches in that. You can only see any movie one time per month, and you can only see one movie per day. But if you go to the movies once per week, it pays for itself. Now, I go to the movies 2-3 times a week, so I pay would have like $150 worth of movie tickets, if not for MoviePass. It saves me a ton of money. Now, if you only go see 3 movies a month, not a good deal. But if you're like me and you see 5 or more movies, it pays for itself. I highly encourage you to use it. It works really easy. They got great customer service. If you want to sign up for it, use the link down below. It helps out my channel. If you just go to their website, it doesn't help my channel. So I wish you to help out my channel. Use the link down below. It really is a great service. If you go see 5 or more movies per month, I highly recommend it. With that said, let's get back to our video. However, now we come up to number 2 on my list, and it's an interesting pick, and I'm going with Transformers: The Last Knight. Now, to be clear, of the Michael Bay films, I think this is the worst made movie with the least coherent plot, the most script problems, the most kind of incoherent storytelling, and that's a pretty big task there when you're in a series where you've got Revenge of the Fallen. But the reason that I put this one at number 2 is simply the insanity that is this film makes it more interesting and watchable to me. As I look at all the 5 Michael Bay films, 2 and 3 kind of get lost in each other to me. Number 4 is just so long, it's so much homework. Number 2 is the second shortest behind the first one of these Michael Bay films. And it's just so bonkers with the King Arthur stuff, and they're tracing down Merlin's wand, and they're seeing the creator of the Transformers and think it's God, but it turns out the devil, like Star Trek V. And that the main plot of this movie is very reminiscent of the Da Vinci Code in that there's these secret organizations going back to the time of King Arthur, and it has very Knights Templar type imagery. So it's not the same thing as what's in Da Vinci Code, but it's the same type of imagery, feels the same, and there's a final descendant of the person related to this, and we're trying to find an artifact related to all of this. All that's very Da Vinci Code. And the guy that was the head of the brain trust, the writer's room of all this, was the screenwriter of the Da Vinci Code movies. And so it's like, wow, you really did show up and just pitch the movies you already just wrote, just with Transformers in them. Anthony Hopkins gives such a bonkers performance as very stereotypical wise Anthony Hopkins combined with very wacky A-list Oscar-worthy actor doing Michael Bay stupid shtick as you see in all of these movies. It's just so bonkers. It's interesting to me. It's not great. It's not wonderful. It just pops. This is a movie I can see myself getting together with friends and being like, all right, let's watch that crazy one and crack jokes the whole movie. Sitting there and watching it by myself, probably wouldn't enjoy that again. Watching it with my buddies, being able to, hey man, remember this bonkers, and this thing happened. Where'd that girl go? The girl just disappeared for 45 minutes. Now she showed up. Why are they taking her into war? This makes no sense. For that reason, not because it's good, but because it's so bonkers, it's interesting to me. And that means coming in at number 1 on my list is Transformers, the first of the Michael Bay films. Now for me, the thing that, rewatching it, what made this one work is that the human characters made sense the way they were used in the first film. And that's as point of view characters. And so we're tracking a guy in his life, and it involves him getting a car, and through this he gets a car. It just happens to be Bumblebee, and this starts us on a little bit of a journey that kind of ties some things together, and they have elements in it that make sense out of why this person's chosen and how he ties into this grander mythology and how things tie together. But it gives us kind of us walking into this world, journeying in, discovering who the Transformers are, while the background of the government stuff's going on and the Decepticons. So it makes sense in this movie in the context of what's going on as to why we're spending so much time before the action really gets going. And that's the stuff that I think makes this one pop. Whereas the other ones just feel bloated and over the top and nonsensical, this one has a structure that makes sense. The first act, we're introducing these characters, the rules, and walking into this world of Transformers. The second act, we're introducing the main plot line and what we're trying to do, and our characters are on an adventure, and then we have our final showdown in the third act. It's nicely structured, has the elements that we want, and at the time it came out, we're finally seeing live-action Transformers, and of course it's Michael Bay, so he is good with special effects, he is good with spectacle, and so we got something that people, like I said, I was G.I. Joe guy, and the G.I. Joe movies are not as good as this movie, not by a long shot. We got what we wanted finally, or what other people wanted, and for me I was like, oh, this is cool, this is a pretty watchable blockbuster entertainment Michael Bay spectacle thingy. And so it works. Also, the thing that we kind of forget because Shia LaBeouf is kind of gone bonkers the last few years is that he's a very legitimate actor that had been a child actor, so he's already kind of well rehearsed, and like people joke about the fact that he's just going, no, 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 and just yelling throughout these movies. But the thing that makes him work and a good actor that's likable is he feels like a person. He feels like he's responding to things that are actually happening, and people do stuff like, no, 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 when they're about to be in an accident, or when a robot shows up in front of them. They just start doing weird, odd things and making noises, as humans do in strange scenarios that do unfold in front of them. And all that makes for something that makes a movie more grounded and work rather nicely. So overall, this is a movie that just established a franchise, and unfortunately a franchise that went very far downhill, very fast, that seemed to get everything wrong about what made the first movie work and didn't know how to expand on it, instead of just started to rehash it afterwards, unfortunately. So the first one's the only one that I would be like, yeah, that's a pretty good little blockbuster there. The rest of them are more like, these are convoluted blockbusters with good moments that are just kind of so much stuff just barfed, exploding with those Michael Bay fireworks explosions all over the universe. That's what the rest of them just kind of are. And the first one's a pretty good blockbuster. That's kind of my take on the Transformers movies. How about you? What did you think about them? Tell me below down in the comment section. I would love to hear your take on it. Also, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews every Saturday. I drop these ranking videos, and then I also do some TV talk during the TV season and other stuff kind of like that. But I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. So please join me in the comment section. Let's get a lively discussion, and thank you for watching.